everyone, and welcome to Learning Media Assessments. This is just your lecture for this unit, and we're just going to go over kind of the basics of the purpose and the scope of learning media assessments and the legal foundation behind why we do them. So this is the slide says Learning Media Assessments, adapted from Assessment to Instruction by Michelle Horseman and Catherine Flick. And I saw them at the Getting in Touch with Literacy conference in December. And that's a pretty cool conference in our field that happens biannually. And it really focuses on literacy activities, literacy interventions, and just kind of literacy knowledge in general in our field. And it's a great conference. It's really fun. There's always kind of fun stuff to see and get introduced to. There was some technology this year too, which was really neat. And next time it will be in Seattle. So it'll be up in my neck of the woods. So I encourage you to come and visit the Pacific Northwest and come to Getting in Touch with Literacy. So I have cited the idea.gov page with the regulations, regulations part 300D, 300.324A2, 3. And it says, in the case of a child who is blind or visually impaired, provide for instruction in Braille and the use of Braille unless the IEPT determines, after an evaluation of the child's reading and writing skills, needs and appropriate reading and writing media, including an evaluation of the child's future needs for instruction in Braille or the use of Braille, that instruction in Braille or the use of Braille is not appropriate for the child. So this goes to those statements that you have on IEPs that say, is Braille the appropriate medium, why or why not, basically, and usually you have to make a justification statement. My only experience really doing this is in New England, New Mexico, and Washington State, so I'm not sure what everyone's language looks like, but they're all kind of similar. So just keep in mind that this is actually, a legal determination, and so that's why understanding the learning media assessment is so important, and that's why doing it is so important. But as many of you have, I think, noticed in your career so far, it's actually very rare to find a comprehensive learning media assessment that's been done. I don't really understand or know why that's the case. I know in my job in Washington, I had 50 students on my caseload, and I can't tell you that I could find a learning media assessment decided for any of them. But, of course, in the IEP, their modality was determined. And so, but it was about having kind of the background information and kind of a comprehensive write-up about it. So I just want you guys to be better teachers of the visually impaired than that, and just understand that this is really important. And don't get too overwhelmed. I mean, a lot of the information for the report you're going to take from your functional vision evaluation. But, the tools, what you use, to assess, in terms of reading and writing, those type of things we're going to go over in this PowerPoint, and then you'll also see them throughout these modules. So, this is just further language in IDEA about the consideration of special factors. It says the IEP team shall, 1, in the case of a child whose behavior impedes the child's learning or that of others, consider possible behavioral supports. 2, in the case of a child of limited proficiency, consider language needs. 3, in the case, and this is what applies to us, in the case of a child who is blind or visually impaired, provide for instruction in Braille. And so this just kind of shows you where in the law that lies, and you can go to I don't know if this is an active link. Oh, I think it is. You can go to the link at the top and you can find that language. And so, you can use this for your administrative purposes, for showing people on your team, hey, this is law. I've got to have time to do this. I have to have a good setting to do this in, and I need to get this information. After the item 3 about Braille, item 4 says consider the communication needs of the child, and in the case consider the communication needs of the child, and in the case of the child who is deaf or hard of hearing, consider the child's language and communication needs, opportunities to direct communications with peers and professional personnel in the child's language and communication mode, academic level, and full range of needs, including opportunities for direct instruction in the language communication mode. And 5, consider whether the child needs assistive technology devices and services. So all of these things could apply to you, and it's just good to know the law so that you can cite it if you need to, and also so you understand what the responsibilities are of yourself and other people on the team. So what are the LMA report components? On the left-hand side, I have the heading, and on the right-hand side, we've got the elements of the LMA report. So a validity statement, and we're going to give an example of that. The purpose of the assessment. So just the same way you do for a functional vision evaluation, you make a statement about, the reason why we're doing this assessment is to determine the best literacy mode for this student. Assessment strategies. What is it that you're using to get your information? Assessment results. The use of sensory channels. Background information, visual functioning, record review, reading efficiency, formal functional reading and writing skills, literacy tools, and then the summary and recommendations. Again, a lot of these things, background, visual functioning, record review, those things are really things that you probably already have access to. And I want to stress, too, that I think a lot of time we get into the business of looking at the functional vision evaluation and then making recommendations based on kind of the next visual steps that we want to see. And I think it's important that we should take a step back from that and really think about the use of sensory channels. And I think that the goals should really be based on the majority of the goals should be based really on the learning media assessment. So, yes, that child might have some vision, but, in our field, we get I've seen a lot of goals that say, so-and-so will track a light from left to right, something like that. And I urge you to think about what is the importance of that goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve with that? Better tracking skills? I don't know. To me, it seems like more functional skills, more use of tactile skills, more development of those other sensory channels might actually be better tools, especially for some of our students with multiple impairments. So I want you to ask yourself that question when you develop goals. What is the purpose? Like, how is this going to, assist a child? How is this going to improve their functioning? The next slide says validity statement. So the validity statement lets the reader know the test measures what it claims to measure. A sample statement is results were obtained using assessment instruments and methods that accommodate this student's cultural background, linguistic status, and or disability. I'm just going to go back to it for a second. So, it doesn't have to be long. You just want to say that you were aware of any sort of, other factors involved, and that you feel like your assessment is indeed a valid assessment, and then it measures what it claims to measure. So you wouldn't have, a learning media assessment and then be doing, assessing on gross motor skills per se. Those that wouldn't make the test valid because what you're looking for is reading and writing. Okay, the next slide, and probably one of the most important things, is the use of sensory channels. So we will give you tools, and the Koenig and Holbrook has our kind of classic sensory channel observation charts, and I think you guys have already used those and been aware of them. And I'll give them to you again in the next unit as well. But these are important documents that kind of help you to understand, I'm observing the child, how is it that they're getting information? Are they getting information visually? Are they getting it tactually? Are they getting it auditorily? Are they getting it from any other place, really? And keep in mind, especially for our students with multiple impairments, that they can use different sensory channels. And I do have some great tools for that again, I'll share next unit. In particular, my favorite for little ones and kids with multiple disabilities is Tanny Anthony's individual sensory learning profile, and I'll share that with you next round. But again, if you need it, please don't feel free to reach out. So restate how the data was obtained. That's you simply writing how you got the data, and document the primary and secondary learning channels. So that means, so-and-so, was observed, using his vision in this type of environment, that kind of thing. So really just documenting how you understood that so-and-so is a visual learner and then a tactile learner, or so-and-so is a tactile learner and then an auditory learner. So reading fluency is the next section. So this data can be obtained from educational assessments, informal reading inventories, and formal reading inventories. And I'm going to put together some, we have a tool called EA Rubric that is actually a really good, that gives us some ideas about assessments. That is you can Google that, and then you can also find online like formal and informal reading inventories. And then next unit 2, I'm going to give you just kind of a comparison of why those are, why or why not those might be good for for children with visual impairment. But it is, possible that if you're working in a school district, then you already have TVIs there. You've got a mentor teacher. Ask them what they use. People usually always have kind of favorite things that they go to. And so that is, that's usually very useful. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Someone already has the resource for you. Informal reading inventories can really be any sort of it could be environmental print. It could be what is the child doing at story time? I mean, all that kind of stuff. But reading fluency really refers to a child's ability to read fluently, obviously, and efficiently. And it's for children who are more established readers. But that doesn't mean that you can't kind of write about in your document for younger children or children with MI. What kind of reading they're doing in the environment, if they're doing any at all, what kind of symbols they're noticing, that kind of thing. Literacy tools is the next slide. What tools is a student currently using to complete literacy tasks? For reading and writing? Do the current reading and writing tools meet the current academic learning needs, future academic learning needs, and future vocational needs? So these are all really good things to think about. What do they currently use, and how can we improve on those? Are those things working for them? Are we going to stick with them? And that might be something that happens like when you're doing a 3-year evaluation. For your yearly IEP, I think that the LMA, unlike the functional vision evaluation and other evaluations, it's not necessarily static. I mean, I think as Christina has shared with us, this definitely can change over time, which is really good to know, but it's a little more static than those other assessments because hopefully the child is, if their vision is stable at least, the child kind of gets a modality and then they are sticking with it and they're getting better and better and better and better at it. And so this is just a chance for you to review those tools and to see, in some cases, and see what you need to do or what the child needs. And future vocational needs is really important, thinking about what does that child need to succeed once they leave school. Future academic learning needs is really important because remember, print gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you have a low vision reader who's kind of been able to hang in kindergarten and first grade because of the print there, those things might change. So you're always looking ahead to the future and what the child needs to succeed. So the summary section will wrap up the report. It will interpret the data obtained from the assessment. Okay, this is what I saw, so that's what this means for the child's literacy. And it'll highlight the main points from the assessment. So especially anything that you really want to drive home about the child's functioning when it comes to literacy. The recommendation section, of course, is very important. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes this is really all that people read in reality. So you want to be thorough. Are the students' current literacy tools for reading and writing appropriate? You can make recommendations that a recommendation could be continue, using the learning media, using the learning media and tools that the child has now and listing those or whatever it is. Take into consideration the student's age, the presence of additional disabilities, and current and future literacy needs, just as we already talked about. So, okay, so-and-so is doing fine now, but in 6 months we need to look at something, or now we need to, get them a reading stand because, they have only use of their central vision and, or they're going to have only use of their central vision in the future, something like that. So just be thinking the implications of the disability, and what they need in the end. So that's it. I know a lot of information, but I hope that this kind of gives you the basics. And again, that Tom Miller video and those Perkins resources will also really steer you in the right direction when you need things. And again, don't be afraid to ask us for resources. Thank you.